Hi, Matthew Smith here, guitar teacher. So I'm an expert on bad habits. I was self-taught for the first 8 or 9 months I had a guitar. I was stubborn, didn't want to take lessons. I was warned by the guys at the music store that I would learn everything wrong and have to unlearn it. I thought they were just sales pitching their teachers, which maybe they were, but they turned out to be right. I'm amazed at all the bad habits I was able to develop in that barely a year's amount of time, and how much work and attention I had to give to it to unlearn those bad habits so that I could, get to the levels of guitar playing that I was trying to get to. And these are just famous bad habits that almost any guitar player can develop because, well, let's face it, you won't even notice it when you're doing it. Most bad habits come from the fact that as you're playing and doing the bad habit, it feels natural, it feels right, and you won't know you've done anything wrong until you get to some music that demands something out of your hand that bad habit just won't let you do. This bad habit, though, some of you might laugh, some of you might be like, oh, this is so obvious, but I miss this, and I watch a lot of guitar players. I can look at their fingers and see that they might have this bad habit too. So I'm going to share this one. This bad habit actually came from a misunderstanding of terminology. When I first started playing the guitar, if somebody said press the first string on the second fret, I just thought that this area between these two wires was the second fret. This area was the second fret, this area is the first fret. These areas were the frets, right? You're pressing on the fret, so you're pressing in this area. And I would generally press, somewhere around halfway between the wires, and if I plucked a note and got buzz and the note didn't ring clearly, then I learned to just press harder, and then I was rewarded with clear sound. So there I went down this dark dirt road into the forest of bad guitar habits. And it was years before it was pointed out to me, and I hit this wall with my playing where I wasn't getting any better. My hand was tense and I couldn't solve certain problems, and I had to address it, and I did, and I wanted to share with you exactly what happened, because odds are maybe you have this habit. So basically, do an experiment. Take your second finger and press the first string down, right up to the first fret. So ideally, when you're pressing a string down against a fret, obviously you're supposed to press as close to the fret wire as possible. You want your fingertip and that downward pressure coming out of it to be as close to that contact point where that metal string and that metal fret are touching as possible. You don't want to be on top of it or past it, because then the flesh from your finger will interfere with the vibration of the string and you'll get a muffled sound. So you're sort of playing this game of placement, trying to get as close as you can without being too close or past the fret. If you can get to that sweet spot where that fret is bumping the right edge of your finger and you can feel it, you barely need any downward pressure. In fact, I would say you really don't even need to use your thumb pressing on the back. Just the weight of your arm being pulled to the earth by gravity should be plenty sufficient to push that string down against that fret. So do a little experiment and see how lightly can you get away with pressing and still get a nice clear sound. And you might be surprised how lightly you really can press if you're right on that sweet spot. Most of us press a little harder than that, especially in the heat of action, Now, maybe drift to the left away from the fret, not even a centimeter, just like a couple millimeters. And now notice that same amount of light pressure that got you that nice clear ringing note, it's just not enough. And notice how much more. I have to double, maybe triple how hard I'm pressing just with a couple millimeters of space now. And if God forbid I were to get halfway back, I'm definitely exponentially pressing harder to get that string to ring out. That might not be a big deal, if you're playing electric guitar and you're playing single note passages and you can kind of get away with it. But imagine playing chords where you have multiple fingers and this amount you have to press is multiplied and then multiplied by each finger. You're going to be squeezing your thumb on the back of the neck. And maybe some of you have even been in the middle of a song and just had to stop because your thumb muscle, that the base here and the palm cramps up, or your hand gets tired. I know that happened to me when I was learning bar chords and squeezing too hard, or learning new songs and I'm trying to keep up, and my hand's just reacting by tensing up. And so it was pointed out to me by my classical guitar teacher, who I had come to see for a lesson well after graduation. I was playing some Bach piece for him, and he looked at me afterwards and said, "Matthew, do you realize that, you consistently press the strings with like large gaps of space between your fingertip point and then the fret and wire contact point?" And I just sort of looked at him blankly, like, "Well, yeah." And he said, you're never going to make it playing like that, because you're having to squeeze so hard, and when you're squeezing so hard like that, you can't develop the finite muscle movements and the quick little movements that you're trying to develop for the technique that you need for the pieces you want to play. And it dawned on me, because I had been having trouble, and I had been playing for a long time and struggling with my hand getting tired, and wondered what I could do. Did I need lighter strings? Was it my guitar? So I decided to take a month out of my playing and try to remedy this problem. And here's what I did, and it worked. I took a piece of music that I already knew. I didn't want to pick something that I had to think a lot about as I played. I wanted to pick a piece of music that, I had played a lot. It could be anything. It could be, a chord progression that you know really well from a song that you like, or it could just be scales that you play, or it could be a solo that you've learned from a song, or a classical guitar piece, or anything. Something It doesn't matter what it is. And make your main focus as you play through this piece of music, the only thing you focus on, make it be pressing right up to the frets. Like if you have a D chord, I like to say, don't tolerate even just the littlest bit of space. You want to be right up to the frets. In fact, I feel like you get to the point where you don't even have to look to tell that your fingers are in the sweet spot, because you can feel the fret wire bumping lightly against the right edge of your finger. And once you get used to that, then you'll crave to feel your finger cinch right up to that spot right against the fret. And when you can feel your fingers right against the fret, you will relax that finger. You can relax. You don't have to press very hard with it. Your whole hand relaxes, and it starts to open up, and all of these possibilities start to come to fruition, because your hand is relaxed. And tension is the number one enemy for any guitar player. Right hand, left hand. It gets in your way. It keeps you from developing your finite muscle movements, that is for sure. So the more relaxed you can be, the better you're going to play, the less roadblocks you're going to put in front of yourself. Some chords like D, C, G, look at that. You can get every single finger right up to the fret, and you barely have to use your thumb on the back of the guitar to get a good clear sound. Some chords, though, like A, some chords, even because of the location of an adjacent finger, you just can't get all the fingers right up to the frets. And you recognize chords like that, and you make up for it with those fingers pressing just a little bit harder. So sometimes you have to do that. But after 1 month of playing this little piece of music I'd pulled out for myself every day, where I focused on just pressing right up to the frets, I swear I was cured. I never had to think about this again, and programmed automatically into my playing is this, like I say, this craving to feel my fingers bumping right up to the frets. And when that happened, y'all, my playing, all kinds of roadblocks lifted, and my playing changed, and I had major breakthroughs. And to this day, my playing thrives on that breakthrough that I made by realizing that bad habit and then taking the steps to undo it. So take a look at your playing. Just watch yourself play something naturally and see, how much space do you allow? Especially on acoustic or classical guitar, it can really kill you to allow that little gap of space between your fingertip and where the fret and the string are contacting. Anyway, that's one really bad habit I wrestled. I'll have some more for you in other videos. I hope that helps.